Over the next several weeks, in April and May, we're going to be looking at our missional life together. Both how God calls us individually as Christians, as followers of Christ, and we're going to be giving you some tools, some spiritual gifts, inventory, time and talent sheets, things that you can fill out in worship to help you discern where God might be leading you in mission to serve and live in this world, what your purpose is. We're also going to be looking at kind of the macro level, which we start with today, is there's some things in common that we all have as Christ followers, some commonality, some mission that we have, not only as a church here at First Lutheran, but the entire body of Christ that we all share with millions and millions and millions of believers throughout the world. So that's where we start today. Just got back from Texas a couple weeks ago, and when we were there were 7 of us there on your behalf, paying it forward, as you will, from the Cedar Rapids flood of '08, helping some hurricane victims from Hurricane Harvey in Houston, Texas, and the poorest of the poor areas hardest hit by Hurricane Harvey. It was a blessing to be down there and to do that work on your behalf, to see a young widow's house restored, and to see her smile and gratitude to you all for supporting that mission that we were doing together. The reason I bring it up is that when we were down there, we were working alongside of some church members from a Minnesota church. And they completely changed how I think about Minnesotans. These are really nice people. And funny, they said the same thing about Iowans. So, you know, God does work miracles. So every night we would stay at the same place that the Minnesotans were staying. And every day we would go to these couple houses and work together alongside of them. And it was a pure joy to see the entire body of the ELCA working together, a church from Minnesota, a church from Iowa, coming down and assisting church members in Texas. And we're all the same church. It was crazy. And there was a retired pastor from the Minnesota church who did a devotional one night and just blew my socks off. And he stood up and he started with, "Why are we here? Why are we here in South Texas?" And I'll tell you, it's not because of a hurricane. Because if we were just responding to a hurricane, why wouldn't there be tens of millions of Americans here? I mean, it's what all of us should do. No, we're here because Christ has us on a mission to spread his good news, to be witnesses, like today's gospel says, and to use words where necessary, right? And he said that each Christian is sent on 4 missions in our lifetime. Each and every Christian throughout history, 4 charges by God, and I'm going to share those with you that he shared with us that day. The first is, God says, "Come to me." That's the very first mission that we get. Many of us at an early age, when we come to God in the waters of baptism, God says, "Come and be baptized. Come and be a part of my family. Come and hang out with me," and do all this cool, crazy Christian stuff we do, like worshiping God and caring for others. Come to me. And we were down there on the shores of Houston. The last day we were there, we went out and we had communion on the beach. It wasn't all hard work, okay? So, and as we were standing there on the beach in Galveston, Texas, in the sun there, and I told our church members, I said, just stop and look and listen for a minute. And you could hear the waves coming, shh, shh. Some of you snowbirds wish you were back there now, shh, right? And those waves were gently coming in. We were looking out over the shore, and I said, just imagine for a second those early disciples on a boat. And they're coming up to those sandy shores, and here walks out Jesus, and he says, "Come to me. Come to me. And let's go help some people, and we'll change the world." And that's what they did. And that's what we do. As we hear that same call for God to come to me. And they were all second career guys, right? They were all blue-collar fishermen and evil tax collectors and all these other white-collar jobs that no one would have. And Jesus called them out of those jobs and said, "Come to me," just like he says to all of us. But some he calls to be leaders in the church, like those early disciples. And it's cool that that still happens today. Just a few days ago, I found myself in Dubuque, Iowa, at Wartburg Seminary, introducing myself to what will eventually be our next pastoral intern at the church. Our church council, this is news to a lot of you, our church council formalized the agreement to extend an offer to a 3rd intern. Y'all remember intern Dan Baldwin? He's now Pastor Dan Baldwin. You remember intern Chris, the redhead, soft-spoken? He's now Pastor Chris. This is what happens. It's good. So we've called yet a third intern. Her name is Michelle Schultz. She's pictured here in the middle. Great, fantastic second career woman, full of a lot of energy, excited to meet you, has a lot of cool things she wants to do here alongside of us. And she's going to be serving part-time with St. Luke's Hospital as a chaplain intern and part-time here at First Lutheran. So she's going to be splitting her time. So she has not one but two supervisors. So we say she's doubly blessed. And here's a picture of those supervisors. Chaplain Wyatt over at St. Luke's and myself, I'll be her supervisor here, and then Michelle in the middle. And when I look at this picture, I put it up here for a reason. I just think about the stories about how God has called all these people. Wyatt was a pastor's kid and grew up around the church. Some of us have grown up around the church and are called to serve that way. You know my story. I was a second career guy from media. And Michelle is second career. She worked some 13 years at United Fire right downtown, grew up here and went to Jefferson High School, and God has called her. And God calls you. And frankly, we need people to serve and lead in the church in all capacities. I was stunned when I was up there at Warburg. Two things I walked away with. One, they're doing a tremendous distance learning program where you can go online and do a lot of it now online. You don't even have to go to Dubuque. So which is really cool. And the second thing is that we are running at a huge deficit right now for need for pastors. Bishop Burke, our Southeastern Iowa Synod bishop, told me recently that there were recently 250 openings for pastors, churches that wanted a new pastor out of seminary. And you know how many we provided? 125. So we're running a 2-to-1 deficit. So we need warm bodies, okay? If you know anybody with a pulse who is thinking about serving, right? Right? That's our job as a church. We need to raise up these leaders and listen to God's call to come to me and encourage them. Hey, whether it's a young person or a second career person or you. I had a gal in seminary I was with. She was 70 years old. 70. And she's been serving ever since in Arizona. 9 years now. God calls all of us. When we see these gifts among us, church, we need to raise these people up. But God doesn't just stop at ordained leaders of the church. God calls all of us. God says to all of us, come to me and be my missionaries, right? So that's the first charge. Come to me. The second one, God says, stay with me. Our second charge from God, our second mission for every Christian, God says, stay with me. Stay with me. When times get tough, when your faith gets shaken, don't wander. Stay with me. We look at it, doesn't get any more difficult than 12 guys who are following around Jesus day and night and are really bought in, and to watch him die and suffer on a cross and think, well, it's all lost. It's all done. It was all worthless. Why do we waste so much time or the last 3 years of our lives and fooling, believing this junk? It's garbage. I'm out. And then they heard an unusual story from Mary Magdalene. Hey, this Jesus guy is alive. I saw him. No, you didn't. Yeah, we did. And then a couple more later on the road to Damascus. Hey, this guy came to us and we're pretty sure it was Jesus. No, he wasn't. And they gather all in this room and they were afraid of their own lives. And Jesus appears among them. And they first thought it was a ghost. I would have too. And all of a sudden the guy just appears there. What the? He says, I'm not a ghost. I'm Jesus, your living Lord. Don't doubt. Don't fear. And boy, we have a lot to fear in this world today. But Jesus says, don't fear. When you hear these things, when you hear these stories, stay with me. Stay with me. Because God is with you. That's the second charge. The third, God says, go for me. Go for me. Don't just stay here, but go for me. Go to the places of darkness where people need you the most. And we think about our church collectively, and my gosh, have we been sending people. We just, as I said, sent a group to Texas, right, to go down and help those people. We've got youth going down, again, to Houston, Texas, the same place for our national youth gathering. We have a group going to Tanzania this summer. to go there. We've had groups go to the prison in Anamosa and are still going to Anamosa. We're going all over the place. We had a huge group just this last Saturday. 30 people served our Saturday evening meal program. Anybody help serve that? Are you any of the 30? Raise your hands. Let me see. Yes. Wasn't that awesome? It was awesome. It was incredible. They wore nice white shirts and black pants. And what normally is a buffet meal where the people in need come in and walk through the buffet, we said, no, you sit down. And we're going to serve you. Because we've been called to go to the places, even our church basement. And it doesn't have to be extravagant like Tanzania or Texas. Friends, God calls you to go to your schools and your jobs, your missionaries at work. Do you see that? Say yes. Your missionaries at work. Or the coworker who needs a listening ear or a hopeful word, you can give it, and give it in the name of Christ. It's okay. I give you permission. God calls us to go for me. And finally, he says, our final mission that God sends us on, he says, come with me. Not come to me, as that first call. It's a little different. Come with me. And friends, it's the final call we will receive in our lives. When hopefully we've lived a long and fruitful life, and it's the end of our life and we die, God whispers to us, come with me. Come with me. The beauty of that call is no matter how you feel you've lived this life, whether you've succeeded or you've failed, like many of us feel like failures at times. We feel like we've failed at all the other missions. We feel like we've failed to do what God wanted us to do as a father or mother or grandpa or husband or son or coworker or church member. You know, it doesn't matter. Because of the love of God in Jesus Christ, we're all able to answer that call. And God says, come with me for one more mission. And you'll be with me eternally in heaven for all time. God says to us, come to me. Stay with me. Go for me. And come with me. Amen.